Welcome back to the Needed Podcast. My name is Ulysses Benitez. If you guys are new to the channel, make sure that you guys subscribe, like, and stick around for this video. A lot of people get afraid when they see podcasts and they just look at the time, but you guys are going to learn so much today. My guest has a huge resume, a lot of great work, and really today's episode, we're going to dive into different things, but before getting into him, I just want to say a big thank you to everybody that's been tuning in for season 2. You guys are in for a really good one today. And without further ado, I want to introduce my guest, a client of mine turned into a good friend. And I just love cutting him because I learned so many things. Like, you know, he thinks he's coming for a haircut, but I feel like I get more takeaways from the actual haircut experience and the time that he's in the chair. And today we decided to do a cut and a podcast. So Cliff Dorfman, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. This is the cuts really on
it came out good. Yeah, I know usually you cut off the beard, but today,
I left it for you.
We left it. We trimmed it up. It looks good.
Got the natural line going.
Yeah.
See, I didn't even know I had one.
Yeah, you didn't know, right? Because you never had that before. So usually when people tell me that, like, oh, I've never had this or that, I already know I won. You know what I mean? like as a client, you're already giving them something different. It's all about the experience. But we kicked it off with that. And, so just for anybody that is new here, that doesn't know, just kind of let them know what you have been doing. You've had a really good career and it's still going. You have like a lot of different stuff you're working on. So just kind of explain to them, who is Cliff Dorfman?
Yeah, sure. I've been doing this entertainment thing for like 30 years. Started out, I'm a classically trained concert pianist. I was playing Mozart, I think, when I was 8, and Rachmaninoff when I was 12. I was always acting. I thought I was going to be a performer, and I started in New York, and I started on like All My Children. This woman, Jean Ron, found me. I was waiting tables at a place called Columbus, which was a dope restaurant in Manhattan.
Oh, really? I just came back actually from my birthday, so I love it there.
Happy belated.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And yeah, so I started there, and I thought, okay, well, I'm going to be an actor, or I'll be a musician, and I'm going to be a performer. And, I started in New York. I was studying with Herbert Berghoff and Bill Hickey and Uta Hagen at HB Studios. And then I went and I actually had the privilege of studying with Sandy Meisner at the Neighborhood Playhouse in Manhattan. And I was always like, I'm going to go to Los Angeles. And I got there and I had no connections. I had sold my Jeep.
So was that like Broadway at the time, or was it different kind of acting at the time?
Well, no, it was when I was learning in New York. It was they didn't really differentiate, especially at HB Studios. It was like, it was acting for acting. The movement was for stage. Like Movement with Uta Hagen was for stage work. But it's different, obviously, than blocking when you're on a TV or a film set.
Right.
But there's something about having a natural movement, whether you're doing, serious blocking on a stage or serious blocking on a set. If you're not moving naturally, it's going to take away from your character.
Right. And is that one of the main things? Because, there is some people, it's funny because my wife has always loved just being in like doing stage work like that, like anything that had to do with like drama, she loved it. So a lot of people don't understand like what goes into that and playing a character. And is that like kind of what you're referring to when you say blocking?
Well, to a degree. I think, some of the best actors I know, like Gary Oldman told me once that every character he creates starts with the shoes.
Right.
Like he buys he finds the shoes for the character and he builds the character up from there. So I don't want to digress too much. I just think that there's, when I talk about movement, I say it because I didn't even realize it was a thing when I was that young. I was just like
doing it.
Well, no, because I'm in the school. So I had the privilege of getting into that class of the woman who was one of the owners of the school and married to Herbert Berghoff, who was Uta Hagen. And her movement class really taught me this kind of natural flow, because it's very hard to be natural and not be indicating every move you're making,
right?
Because you're just waiting for your line, or you're, so once you get a more of a natural flow going, and I think, that kind of applies to life, right? If you don't have a natural flow, it's what we were talking about during the cut. It's like everything's got to be flowing.
Everything has to be flowing, and even now, with like what I do on social media, I have to be I like it to be natural. You get me? And even doing this, I don't want to be forcing anything. I like it to just flow. So once you started off there, that kicked off. So you moved to LA.
Yeah, so I'd gone to Virginia for a little bit, and I worked with this guy. I think I found him in Backstage. His name was Henry Edgar, and it was actually this little theater company. This guy in Hampton, Virginia, and it was the I did Equus there, and I did. I wonder what else we did. I can't even remember now, but it was actually Bruce Willis's first place he went.
Oh, wow.
And you know his name's Walter Willis.
Willis,
it's
not
Walter
Bruce?
Willis.
Okay, so it's actually his middle name. Some people go off of the middle name more than they go off of the first name.
Right.
That's dope. He's about it. All right, so a lot of these names that you're dropping, there's gonna be a lot of name drops on this episode. So just so you guys
just
know,
get your back ready.
yeah, just start start writing them down because you guys are gonna search them up after.
Well, I've been doing this like almost 30 years,
right.
So you know that you get to a place where, and by the way, I don't know Bruce Willis. I'm saying like I just was there after, and it was this theater company was a place where he started, and I remember the guy Henry Edgar showing me the playbill that they had made up, and it was Walter Willis in Picnic, in the play Picnic.
That's
and
cool.
he like had like no shirt on or like a tank top, and he was like holding a jacket over his shoulder or something, and he had a lot more hair.
It sounds like him, except for the hair part, right?
Right. But it was
cool.
So you know that was kind of inspiring, and then I got back to New York from there, and I decided, okay, I'm going to go out to LA and I'm going to see, you know, because it seemed like a majority of the business was
here.
Yeah, 100%. So my parents were not into it, you know, like they were. I mean, my mom and my grandmother, Sylvia, rest her soul, they were very supportive, but, you know, you don't want your kid, like you'd rather go to college, get a job.
How old were you at that time?
I was like 18, 19 years old.
Oh, wow, very young.
Yeah, I was not going to stick around. I was, you know, making sure. But I always knew that I was going to do this.
Yeah. You knew from the get-go because that's an age where a lot of people don't really know what they want to do.
That's right.
So for anybody at that point right now, what would be your advice? Just kind of follow like what your heart is telling you kind of thing?
Well, you know, it's interesting that you say that. It's like because I didn't realize how fortunate I was that I always knew what I was going to do. And I wasn't aware that I'd end up where I'm sitting right now, but I always knew I was going to be in entertainment.
Right.
I always knew I was going to be in show business.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I think that's cool, too, because a lot of people, they just kind of focus on, I want to say, like, the beginning and the end, but not in the in-between. Because, I mean, you got here somehow, but you were still doing what you wanted to do, right? Because there's so much shit that probably happened in between that.
Oh, yeah, but that was the thing, and it's such a fortunate blessing to I feel like that's redundant. It's just such a blessing to be able to know, because what I realize is, and especially now, my son's 17, and I realize like there are so many people that have no idea like what they want to do, and you're so lucky when you get like I just took it for granted.
Definitely,
you know, just like being white. I had no idea. I'm like, oh, I just have this privilege of knowing that I want to do exactly this. And I would say for people who don't know, which is the norm, by the way, that is the norm.
No, it's pretty normal. We're going to touch on that too.
Yep.
As we go into the episode.
Yep. But I would say that for everyone who doesn't know, which again, I say, as we agree, is the norm, I would always recommend making a list of the 3 things you love doing. Like, I don't care if it's playing video games, you know, like if it's just.
Oh, yeah. You could get into anything right now.
Right. But what you love, like what gives you actual joy.
Right.
Because there is a way to make money off it.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Even when we were talking about the haircut thing, right, where I have like the eye for it and stuff. Yeah. As much as I've tried to get away from that and just focus on other things, I always get back into it because, I mean, we're here right now because of a haircut, because I met you through a haircut, and then now we're doing the podcast. And I have an eye for it. I always was into art. I just never knew how the hell am I going to do something with art. It turns out that, you know, the way I visualize a haircut, your beard, the look that you're going to have, like, that's all art at the end of the day.
Well, you have a unique eye for it. You know, you see symmetry in a different way. Like, you see it much more like an artist than even, you know, and I understand most hair cutters or hairstylists are artists, but you see it like a fine artist would see, you know, how you're going to draw a portrait. It's different with you. And I've been cut by some, you know, amazing people, but you have a way of seeing the face, seeing the lines.
Yeah. How it's going to complement, you know what I mean? You kind of bring out the full potential, I think, of people and like their hair and stuff like that. So that's really cool. So back to pretty much your journey on that. So like how long did it really take for you to kind of kick off when you did move to LA? Was that like already when you were like 20, 22?
No, I was about 19.
Okay, so you left right away.
Yeah, and I ended up with a manager. So I knew, so you always know somebody. You gotta once you start manifesting what it is you want, once you start in your mind just putting it into the universe, you realize, like, I do know that motherfucker from that thing. Like, you know what? I'm gonna call that person.
Right.
Because I met that person and that person knows a manager.
No, yeah, definitely. That's how I met you, for real. So real quick, the story behind how we met. Shout out to Dre. So Dre put me on with you. You reached out. And then it didn't work out at the time, but then something told me, at the time I didn't have a chair here yet, at this location. So, I was trying to get this whole studio thing going where I could do a podcast, but I could also record haircuts or even take in clients if I had to. And something told me, reach back out to Cliff. Never met the guy, but just by the way you reached out, I already know you were a cool dude.
Thank you.
And we talked about just being nice to people. You know what I mean? That's like so important. But, I reached out. And sure enough, the next day I was cutting you, and then boom, you know what I mean? Just to do that, but intuition,
quick too.
Yeah, the intuition part of it was so powerful. Where it's like something told me I have to hit him up, and it's like not ignoring the signs. You know what I mean?
And then we talk about that a lot. You get pangs in your gut for a reason. You get an instinct for a reason.
Yeah. And most of the time when you don't follow it, that's when the shit that you thought would happen does happen. You're like, damn, I should have just listened to what I was saying.
Right.
To myself, but. That's so powerful. And back to your point about networking, just through that one person, like silently within hair related stuff, I've built some pretty good, connections out here. And I've been here for 2 years. So
it goes Skip, Dre, and then it keeps
a couple other people, in between there.
Well, this is what I'll always say is everything you're going to accomplish in your life comes from the work. And I'm not just talking about material stuff. I'm talking about relationships, your family. You're like, everything good comes from the work.
Definitely.
The work you put in. So you put in serious work. You're a hustler. You built a studio. You got a chair here. You give amazing haircuts. And then someone meets you and it's like, boom, I'm going to be around this person now because, your energy is on point. You put in all the work.
Definitely.
And it shows in the results too. Like we're talking about the haircut even. It's like, or what we're wearing here, this Act of Faith stuff. It's like,
you loved it.
It's like my favorite.
That's what I gave to you the first time you came, right?
Yeah. And I this ivory, I can't tell you how many compliments I get on this. I mean, this goes now hand in hand with my chrome heart shit.
Yeah. You know what's funny that I was just telling you about that the other day, that the Act of Faith stuff. It was new to, my wife and I's like audience, where it's like, okay, you guys are charging a little bit more. But then the cool thing about it is that when we dropped, a lot of people got the point. Like, okay, I'm going to pair this up with Chrome Hearts. I'm going to pair it up with Louis. You got Louis boots on right now.
I do, wait.
Yeah, show them the Louis boots.
I got the Louis boots on.
You guys don't even know about these.
Right?
Yeah, we got the Louis boots.
You can't even get these. These are like fucking vintage now. but I pair them right up with the Act of Faith. But this thing is so comfortable too. And then you got the ivory color. That I get a lot of comments like, what's that color?
You know what's crazy about that color? It was the one that didn't sell as much. So it's still available, by the way, guys. I'm gonna link the link down below. You guys have to have a set of this. I just feel like
I get more compliments on this than I get on my a lot of my Chrome Hearts or my Louis or my Gucci shit.
Yeah, and the thing is too, I feel like sometimes these bigger companies, they're great. We love wearing them, but it's like, okay, I want to be that big company too one day. You know what I mean? And it starts with the support of the people and the hype and how much, they love it, love it and wear it. So
it's comfortable.
We checked off a lot of things already with the brand, comfort, the look, the image that we want for it. It's just more so like making it grow. And that's really the first drop. So there's still more things to come.
Well, you got that new one now that I can't wait to get with
we're gonna get
the short set. Oh,
it's funny because that's actually the short in the crew neck is that was a spring drop, but so many things go on into the development of this stuff that we dropped it I think in November, so it's pretty late. Mm-hmm. But I expect it to still do well. Like spring is coming up, so
I think
you're gonna be using that all the time.
I'm telling you, I think that's you're gonna have to do another run of that.
Right, and the LA weather, you want like a hoodie with shorts in the summer, honestly.
All the time.
Yeah, it's like annoying, right?
That's all my kid wears, by the way. Is like he'll wear shorts and he's got a hoodie on.
Yeah, exactly.
It's in a hat.
Yeah, for sure. So, being out here, what year did you come to LA then?
Well, I think the first time I came was, like I said, when I was 19. So it was around 88. And then the city got a bit much for me. Like it was a lot to deal with at 19 years old.
Yeah, it was a big change, right? New York to LA.
Well, yeah, but I had also, what I had known in New York, because, what you do is you got to find something else to do, right? You get to make money, and if you want to pursue this, right?
You have this dream, but it's like not paying the bills yet, right?
No, it's not even close to it's not even close to paying a bill.
Yeah.
Let alone plural. And you're like, well, unless you're independently wealthy or you're what I call a PhD, which is, Papa has dough, and you're a trust fund kid, you have to find a way to pay bills and live, because while you're pursuing, so basically you have two full-time jobs.
Yeah.
So the thing
you got the dream you're chasing after, and then you got the one that's going to help you at least get there, financially.
You know what I would say? I don't like the term dream. And I'll tell you, because dream's a great place. I think it's a whole other universe when we go there. But I like the term goals.
Goals.
Yeah, I do, because dream is something that you just get when you sleep, and you get to go to that other universe and you live there.
No fairy tale.
Yeah, well, I believe it's real, actually, but I believe it's another universe, and that's when we live there. And in my dreams, okay, great. But in my goals in this reality that I paint every day, if I call it a dream, that narrative stays as a dream.
Right. We want to start changing the narrative, pretty much, is what you're saying.
Well, yeah, think about words are, what do you do with a word? You spell a word. And there's a reason words are spells. The spells that we say to ourselves, the words that we spell and say to ourselves, cast a spell on our subconscious.
Literally, huh?
Yeah,
it's
literally.
crazy how that works. Spell. Yeah. You're pretty much casting a spell by spelling those words.
That's all it is. And what you say, so every word that you say has to be carefully cultivated.
Yeah. It just intention, you know what I mean? That's like a big part of what I want to talk about today, and being aware of how powerful the mind is. I think that's like one of the things that I was like wowed about. And I feel like at the time when I met you, it was right before the year started. So I was already in that mindset of my intuition, being a little more aware of like what I'm telling myself and acting on that, executing and stuff. And then that's when I met you, and it just kind of all clicked. So before we get back to your story, on how you grew into what you do now, like how powerful is that for you on the day-to-day right now? And how long did it take you to get there? Because I think a lot of people are stuck with that topic right now.
It's the most powerful thing, and it's the only thing that truly matters. The difference is between being young. When you're young, you have an entitlement to things, and you're not aware of your mortality, and you're just like I would go out for the school play, and the second I went out for the school play, I'm like, I'm getting the lead. There was no, it wasn't even like I had to tell myself. I'm like, I already have the lead. Like, I would see myself in the lead, and of course I got the lead. It doesn't even mean that I was more talented than other people, but I had such a firm intent in my mind, and you're so young, you don't realize that what you're doing is visualizing.
Yeah.
And you're visualizing it so clear that you're basically going into the quantum reality, and you're making that reality a fact for this reality. And then so when you pop back here after that visualization, basically that already happened.
It already happened, yeah.
So then as you get older, what happens is you get beat down a little more. You may have, you may have come from an abusive place, so maybe you think love is shown by abuse. So you go out and you set up a bunch of abusive relationships who, abuse you all the time. You're like, oh, well,
and not just
me.
Like in the personal life, it's more so just even the people around you, the professional side of it as well.
That's exactly
what I mean?
right.
You think that shit's normal.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So you go and then you get beat down a little. So you start to almost like forget that you have to continually program your subconscious, that you have to continually watch your narrative, and then you start saying, oh, well, I am a piece of shit, or I don't really get, you know what, I do feel, that person told me I'm a fucking asshole, like maybe I am, my dad told me I'm a fucking asshole.
Or I'm like this, because this is what I told myself, or this is what somebody else told me.
And then that's what you are.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
That's it. And then shit, and then you're like, why me, or why does this happen? Or by the way, yeah, sure, it's happening. It's all happening. Why is because you're making it happen.
Yeah.
And I think that was when, and it
We're
took me a long
allowing it to
time.
happen too.
It took me a long time, man. And here's the thing I'll say: if you have, I was very fortunate in the fact that I was given by God, I believe, this inherent talent that I have.
Yeah. I agree with that too. I think a lot of people are gifted with the talent. It's just like what you do with it too. You get me? Like you couldn't have done shit. You know what I mean? You could have stayed in New York when you were 18, 19.
That's very true. And it was because I had the talent, and everyone has it. Everyone has some given talent
for sure.
by God.
We want to make that clear too, because I think a lot of people think, how do you find your passion, or how do you go after stuff,
We all have a talent.
Right.
You might have multiple ones. You just haven't done the exploring to really figure out who you are and what your passion is and where it lies.
Yeah.
And it might be accounting. It doesn't, you know, just because you're an accountant, it doesn't mean you're not talented.
Yeah.
You know, there are some accountants that rewrite, you know, fiscal laws and they end up running the fucking World Bank. There is no, you know, there's no there.
Yeah, there's levels to everything. I feel, you know what I mean. Even when I started as cutting hair, they were like, "You're just gonna be a barber." But then, I mean, it led to so many great things because I was fully committed to that, and I went after it without being scared and stuff. So it's like to your point of, you know, putting in the work and actually chasing after what you're passionate about. Super important.
Yes, and staying with the narrative. And it's like we talked about that book, The Alchemist.
Yeah.
And you know, it's like there's that great quote in that book. It's like when you know what it is you want, the universe will conspire to give it to you.
It's almost like it's filling in,
Yeah.
you know, to what you're doing.
Because you're so set on what you want.
Right.
And why I brought up the talent thing is because I had this talent that I could coast on. So even though I was, you know, letting my subconscious get filled with, you're not going to make this or you're not going to do that, I think it's what stopped me from going to the next level. I would get to certain levels that I was amazed that I got to, but to jump, like I would screen test for a big movie. Like I screen tested for a movie against this guy, John Seda. And no one knew John at the time, and no one knew me. And it was with Woody Harrelson. It was a movie called Sun Chaser that Michael Cimino, who did The Deer Hunter and Heaven's Gate, and I mean, you know, he's such a great director. But anyway, he was directing this movie, Sun Chaser, and it came down to myself and John Seda for the screen test, and we got the screen test with Woody Harrelson, and you signed like a 3-picture deal with Warner Brothers because, you know, they want to lock you in for cheap.
Right.
Because no one knows you, and they're like, well, we're going to put this money into you, so, you know, for you, it's like, oh, you're signing, this is, you know, 20 years ago, but you're signing a $500,000 deal to do 3 movies with Warner Brothers. You're like, oh, fuck, like, this is great.
And this is pretty still early on into your career.
This was pretty, like, I had done 90210, and I had done Seventh Heaven, the original 90210.
Oh, wow, Seventh Heaven too.
Yep, I had done Seventh Heaven. Well, I had a mentor.
These are series pretty much,
Yes,
right?
yes, and I did Movie of the Week with Shannon Doherty, and I, you know, TV was different then. So I mean, and I know we're going to talk about the difference between where the business was when I started and where
it's at now, how
where
you're
it's
adapting.
at now. Well, you have to adapt. I mean, that's adapt or die, right? That's just
Literally.
Darwinism.
That's just life advice.
Yeah, exactly.
You're either with it or you're just behind. You know what I mean?
And there's no, you know, and then you got to figure out how do we get ahead of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, if you really want to make the money, how do I get ahead?
Facts. Yeah.
Right. So, okay. So, I mean, there's like
There's so
every
many
time we
things to talk
talk,
about.
there's so much to go through. So I had a mentor, Mr. Spelling, Aaron Spelling, who, you know, was one of the biggest TV producers in the world. And I was very, very, again, I'm going to use the word blessed a lot. I'm not saying like hashtag blessed. I want to make it clear how grateful I am.
Yeah, we're grateful.
Of all the people that have, you know, really taken their time and invested in me.
Right. And even to that point, like you just being here, you're investing in me. You get me? You're part of this episode. I'm grateful for that. And I just love the fact that now my audience is going to feed off of that. You get me? Now they're going to be like, wow, these are the kind of people that you're hanging around with, that you're talking to. You get me?
Yeah.
So to me, you know, I'm grateful for that. So,
well, it's like Marilyn Manson said, if you know, dress like a rock star and you act like a rock star and you talk like a rock star, people are going to treat you like a rock star. Like,
sure.
It's like, that's it. You know, it's like you start walking around looking like Marilyn Manson, people are like, and you're like, get me a Coke.
Yeah.
You know, sit down, leave me alone. I don't talk to people like you.
Yeah, it's funny,
they
right?
They might not like you, but they'll treat you like a rock star.
Yeah, it's kind of like the perception thing, right? Perception is reality.
It 1,000% is reality, and it's how you perceive yourself. If you listen to Conor McGregor, he was driving around in a piece of shit beater, but in his mind, he was in a Bentley.
Yeah.
Now that guy has how many Bentleys? I think he was in a Bentley convertible or
he
a Rolls
retired
convertible.
already. He did like 5 fights and he was done.
I mean, the guy, because he manifested, he visualized every single thing that he wanted.
Right.
And he could not have been poorer living with his mom and his wife. I think it was his girlfriend at the time. Like, broke.
Super broke. And that's the thing too, like the money thing. A lot of people kind of base everything out of money. Like, oh, I'm rich. It's like, no, but you're so poor in all these other areas. You know what I mean? Like, money's just a materialistic thing. And I think you talked about that too, the materialistic stuff. It's like, you know, with my family and my relationships and everything else, I'm rich. You know what I mean? I'm
very rich. And I know so many people that are so wealthy, like, you know, private, you know, PJs and everything. Like, I want that, I got it.
Yeah.
You know, literally, I'm going to wake up today, I'm going to go to Paris. But you know what they don't do? They don't wake up and go to Paris.
Yeah.
They wake up and they act miserable.
Yeah.
Because they are. And the money, see, if you're happy, money buys a whole lot more happiness.
For sure.
But if you're not happy, it's never going to help you.
It's never going to pretty much fill that cup
No, that
of
void,
what you're looking for. And
endless.
I see that a lot, you know, especially, I mean, now being out here, you know what I mean? Like the lifestyle is different. You see it, but you know, I feel like we're good at reading people.
Oh,
you know what I mean? So I could already automatically tell, like, you know.
Well, I'm an empath, you know, and I have been my whole life. So I just didn't know what it was. I just didn't know why I had to absorb everyone else's emotions and feelings. I didn't know why when I was a kid, I would walk into a classroom in like 3rd grade and I'd be like, the teacher had a fight with her husband. That kid doesn't like what he got for lunch. They're in a thing over there that might end up in a fight, and we're definitely going to have a surprise quiz today. And it was all right. And it's
That's
like,
crazy.
And then there was some book that came out. It was called Highly Sensitive People. And I don't even think that people were using the term empath yet, or it was coined.
I think that's what I am at this point. I think I didn't know there was a word for it.
Yeah.
I feel like we visualize that stuff already. We see it, you know what I mean?
But you also feel other people's energy. Like, and you know, like, I'll get around people and I'll be like, I'm not going to be around that person. I can see a person walking toward me, like from, you know, 20, 30 feet away on the street, and I'll immediately know just as soon as I see them that I have to hold my breath when they walk by me because I don't want to smell their pheromones. Like, for real, because I'm like, oh, that person is not for me. When you sync up with somebody, when you know you're in the same energy field, like, I had some of it's proprietary, so I can't talk about it, but, you know, when we were talking about staying ahead of the game, so I ended up in an hour conversation today with the lawyers for the company that is talking about, you know, this kind of new field of how we incorporate this thing into film. And Dre, who is my boss and my CEO, has no idea that I was having that conversation because I hadn't told him yet. And out of nowhere, he just texts me as we took the halftime, and I look at my phone and he's like, exactly what you just, like, everything I talked about today, he just said out of nowhere. Right. And I was like, yo, I just had an hour conversation with your lawyers about this and how we work the licensing agreements into this when we go to make any movie or TV show.
Right. And that's just like you were talking about being ahead, and then also the fact that it's not a coincidence. You know what I mean? Like what was happening there. It was
no coincidences.
None. And even back to you said, I feel like that's like a power thing. You were just saying about how you're an empath.
Yes.
And I feel like that's so powerful because I feel like I'm misunderstood in that sense. You know, like we're very to ourselves. You are like that as well.
Sensitive too.
You know, we see stuff and sometimes you wanna question yourself too, because you're like, man, maybe I am crazy, or maybe I need to be a little more.
I did
normal.
that for a long time, man. That was part of the reason that I even evolved at all.
Right.
Is because of thinking like, am I? Like, here's the thing, right? Especially people like us, if you're at all empathic, if you at all feel energy, if you at all connect with the universe in any way, people love to call you sensitive. Yeah. Oh, you know, Dorfman, why are you being so sensitive? And for the longest time, I took it as an insult. I was like, oh, yeah, no, I'm not sensitive. I'm going to be fucking tough. I don't care what that person says to me, or I don't care. That didn't hurt, but it did. You know, like, it does hurt. Like, the words hurt, the intent hurts, the feeling hurts. And I was sensitive. I am sensitive. And I found it to be emotional warfare. So, like, the second I call you sensitive, now anything you say to me, like, if I'm a dick to you.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm really an asshole to you.
Yeah.
And I say nasty things to you. And then you go, yo, I don't like being talked to like that, Cliff. Like, well, you're so fucking sensitive, Ulysses. Why are you so sensitive? It's like, go ahead. What
in my mind, I'm going to feel like, damn, I think I am sensitive, right?
That's exactly right. So you start believing other people's narratives.
Yeah.
And that's what you're feeding into your subconscious.
Right. And we were just talking about how you said that if you're portrayed as a rock star, then you're going to be a rock star. So also, if you tell yourself you're an asshole, in your mind, you're going to be an asshole.
That's right.
So what's up with the subconscious stuff? I feel like I want to really kind of get into that, because that's very deep. I think sometimes a lot of stuff is just very to the point, like, oh, you're sensitive, or why isn't this shit working out for me, for example, in a scenario. So just kind of get into that and how powerful your subconscious is. So
I'll encapsulate it with a couple of things. So in talking about my story, I'll just fast forward it a little for this purpose. So I had written Entourage, first few seasons.
Oh,
and then I went on to
That's a recent one, right?
Yeah, well, it's pretty recent. I mean, it was, for me, it feels like yesterday, but it was, 2015 2005, 2006, 2004 to like 6.
But I feel like I'm still hearing about that.
It's still in the conversation culturally.
Yeah, dope.
And then I wrote a movie called Warrior with Tom Hardy and Joel Egerton and Nick Nolte. It made Tom Hardy famous, made Joel Egerton. They were working.
So this is like the beginning of like a movie that hit it off for them.
Yeah.
Because Tom Hardy's popular guy.
Yeah, and he was working before Warrior, but he wasn't, a leading man. He was maybe fourth or fifth on the call sheet.
That was like a major role for him.
It was the role that he did Bronson, which kind of got people in America to go, hey, this guy really is good.
Yeah.
And then he got Warrior, and Warrior is kind of, after that he was Bane, and he was Tom Hardy.
I'm going to tag some of these. Where can they find some of these films?
Well, Warrior just actually ended up on Netflix February 1st, and it was just trending this weekend. So that's a 10-year-old movie, and it's still trending. And same with Entourage. It's still in the conversation. But why I bring this up is not to, there's no ego in this. There's a reason for it.
But I want people to be, to go see your work too. You get me? So we're going to tag all that. I'm going to post some of the actual images here of the covers and stuff like that. And go ahead.
Well, why I bring it up is because we were talking about people with money or filling your void and not being happy. And I had all these, personal successes, right? Artistic successes. And I had some money. I wasn't broke by any means, especially after these projects. And I wasn't at all happy. I was actually physically miserable. Mm-hmm. And it started to really connect with me. I'm like, well, what else am I going to do, right? So I'm going to create a show maybe that's, Warrior ended up on Quentin Tarantino's top 10 list for that year. It's like artistically, everything that I wanted to have happen, was really kind of taking place, but
on the professional side.
Yeah, and also on the creative side.
Right.
Because professional I always look at as money.
Right. That's when it's like legitimate, but the creative side, yeah.
Yeah, but also creatively. So I had both things. Like creatively, I felt, I was being received well. My words were being received well. And professionally, I was getting paid.
Yeah.
And I had no other second job, finally. I wasn't working at the clubs anymore. Up until I got the job on Entourage, I spent the whole probably 3 months of working in the writer's room the first season I was on there. And I was still working the door at clubs because I was afraid to give up my day job.
So what was that, like a promoter kind of thing?
I was a doorman.
Okay.
Like with the guest list, not security.
Okay.
I had security to protect me.
That's good. I'm like, what's the guy that's usually an asshole?
Yeah, that
was that you?
Yeah, that was me. And actually, no, but you're not. It's really true.
You have to be though, in a way, right?
I always tried my best to find a happy medium because I knew what it was to be on the other side of the rope.
Right.
And I know how it feels to be told no. It sucks. No one wants to be told no.
Yeah.
No.
But you're dealing with people that are already intoxicated and,
There's a big stretch. But wait, let me stay on point because we do this. We go down, we digress a lot.
I gotta give them the realistic situations,
I'm going to stay on track for both of us.
Right.
So you asked about the subconscious. So I brought up Entourage and Warrior to say that I was seeing this success personally, artistically, professionally, and I was inside. I was unhappy. I was miserable. My stomach hurt, and it kept hitting me. Why am I feeling physical fucking pain in my stomach, in my chest, from mental thoughts? They're thoughts, they're issues, they're ideas, they're things that I think are not right. The people I've surrounded myself with, all of these things, and it was that moment where I realized that this is real. Like, this is not the mental manifestation of physical pain means that there's a science going on here.
Yeah.
Forget about the esoteric levels of it where I was like, okay, let me, because at that point I had read a lot, like Hermetica Corpus I think it's the Hermetica Corpus, yeah.
So you were studying about that?
Everything, the Tibetan Book of the Dead, the Egyptian Book of the Dead, all about Hermes. I can never pronounce it right.
Hermes, I think.
Hermes, right?
Yeah.
It's like the clothing line, but it's also like the pharaoh and the god, right? So I had read the Kabbalion, which was Hermetic teaching. I had read the Kabbalah, plus, being raised Orthodox Jewish, I had read, I'm not that now, I'm Jewish, but not Orthodox, but I had read the first book of the Kabbalah rather completely.
And these books are all down to one topic, right? Like, it kind of teaches you about, how can I say it? Maybe you could say it better. Well, all the books kind of go back to teaching you more about like the feeling that you were feeling, kind of thing.
Well, they taught me about the universe. They taught me about maybe your place in the universe, why we're here, maybe why we decided to be here, why there might be more suffering here than in what the Kabbalah calls the Ein Sof, which is the perfect place of light and being, where we were getting everything we wanted all the time as beings of pure light in the fourth or fifth or sixth dimension. And, you know, we had no way to thank God, to thank the Creator, because we were getting everything and we couldn't give him anything back. That's really, we could thank God, but we couldn't give God, I don't want to what is it, genderize God.
Yeah,
right?
It's always a sensitive topic.
Right, exactly. I know, because I'm older too. I'll say him, but I catch myself now. I'm like, no, it's not a him. There is no.
Yeah, there's no gender.
Right, there's no gender to it whatsoever, but we couldn't give God anything back. And so we decided to restrict our light and fall to Earth, this planet, where we will suffer. And by suffering, we will have to pray to God to relieve our suffering, and that is our way of giving back. Yeah. But it started to make a little sense as to why we suffer. But then I couldn't understand why it's still this thing. It's not like I, had real, the loss of a loved one or the loss of a child, God forbid, not
because there were several things that were still normal and doing
great.
Good for you. Yeah.
Yeah. And I started to realize, okay, so I'm learning a little about why they're suffering, but I don't understand the science of why I'm feeling actual physical pain.
Pain, yeah.
And that's where I started going, maybe I got to look into neuroscience. I want to see how the synapses work, how the brain works.
Yeah, I love how you explained that to me. So now I'm excited for them to hear it. So go into the science part of it, because it's crazy, guys.
So I started reading about neuroscience, and I started understanding that we have neural pathways that are grooved into our gray matter, and from a very young age. So by the time we're 28 or 30 years old, our body is basically an autopilot. We're fully formed habits.
Yeah, and I think you told me something about that, where it was a percentage of our actual life it revolves around pattern and habit, right?
Like 93 or 95% of our life, by the time we're 28 to 30, is habit-based. We are on autopilot, and our brain, our mind, is not doing any of the work. And why I specify between the brain and the mind. It's two different places.
Two different places, yeah.
Yeah, the brain is the thing in your head, and the mind is the back of it, which is the subconscious. As the Kabbalion says, the mind is all, and the all is mind, and mind is the all. Mm-hmm. And the all is the creator. The all is everything that surrounds us. But the mind is what gives us what we see in this reality. Right? If we close our eyes, and physics will tell us this, everything now is a possibility wave, that my eyes are closed. It's only because I open them and I believe that there's a desk here, there's a desk here. If I was able to really believe there was an elephant here, I would open my eyes and there would be an elephant here.
Yeah, there would, huh?
And, it's a great example of this. So you have a Tesla, they did the new software update.
Yeah, there's some new ones out right now, right?
Right, but the new software update, how I first read it, it says it changes the color of the exterior of the car, right? Oh, dang. Right. So in my mind, I fully believed that that's what it was. So when I changed it to metallic blue, I got outside of the car and I saw my car as metallic blue. Then later, when I had my son come out, he's like, Dad, it doesn't change the outside of the car. It only changes it. The color of the car you're seeing in the icon in the computer is what changes.
Right.
And I realized that I believe that it changed the color of the car, and I saw a metallic blue car.
And even if you weren't outside, probably when you're driving it, you feel like everybody's seeing a metallic blue car.
Yes. And that's how powerful our mind is. So I started to read about these neural pathways and how they get formed. And most of our life, our brain is figuring out patterns to keep us alive. It's like, what's the safest path from A to B?
Right. And most people go towards that one. And that's where a lot of people are, I don't want to say messing up, but I just want you guys to be aware of how we can change these patterns, because really that's why they get to the red light without even paying attention to the road. That's why.
Like, how long have I been driving for?
That's why they go to work at 9 and then it's like, oh, dang, it's 6 o'clock or it's already Friday. You know what I mean? So
yes.
What's really your advice to somebody like that maybe feels stuck, or they want to change these patterns and create better habits and really get deeper into that level of it?
So I think there's a quote, I think it's Dr. Joe Dispenza, who said, you can't create a new you from the old you.
Right.
So the first thing that I realized in reading about neuroscience,
that's powerful.
That is, right? I'd love to take credit for it, but I have to give credit where it's due.
Yeah, for sure.
But if it helps someone, that's really all that matters.
Yeah.
So what I did read about was the fact that these pathways, we can prune them and we can change them. So for me, it started by waking up on another side of the bed. I moved the entire side of the bed, and like, you know, you wake up, you look at your phone, you go to the bathroom, you eat your oatmeal, like start switching that up.
It's a little
Start
routine.
switching the route up.
So
that you take,
the smallest things.
right. And now your mind starts to be dominant over your body and your body, because right now your body's controlling your mind, right? And so we have fight or flight.
Okay.
Right, it's left over from evolution, right? Our frontal lobe knows the difference now. You know, we know we're mortal. We know that we're going to die. We don't have to have the same animal instincts, right? But if a gazelle is chased by a lion and the gazelle gets away, 30 seconds later, the gazelle's drinking water at the wherever it is, the river, the pond, has no care in the world about the lion. The lion is a thing that happened a year ago.
Yeah, like all that scared feeling that the gazelle had is like gone.
But because we have a frontal lobe, what happens is we keep thinking about the lion. We keep thinking about the lion, that fucking lion
Like
fucking
days
come
later.
at me like that, this motherfucker. But our cortisone release, which is what causes fight or flight, only takes 90 seconds. That's it. After 90 seconds, you're bullshitting yourself. And what's happening is your body is addicted to the cortisone release. And it's now figuring out ways to trick your mind into releasing more cortisone. So your
Right.
body starts getting these feelings up, right? And it's like, it kind of reminds you, like, remember that motherfucker and what they did to you?
Yeah.
That was bad,
And
right?
that's why I think a lot of people stay stuck and they don't evolve because they're still worried about a lot of shit that happened to them in their life. And everybody's situation is different, right? But I think so many people get caught up with that part of it, and that's why they don't move forward. And I mean, I'm not saying that they don't want things to change. They have all these, I mean, like literally we're talking about dreams or goals that they want to reach,
Right.
Whatever way you want to put it, but they're still so stuck in the old version of themselves and that they haven't went into like that new level. You know what I mean?
I do. And, you know, like for me, it was, I had surrounded myself with a lot of abusive people who took advantage of me, all these things, blame, right? So the first thing I had to do, and this is the biggest thing that I found, and the hardest thing that I did, was I had to remove blame as a weapon from every single situation. So yeah, that person stole from me. That person took my idea. That person abused me. That person punched me in the face. Yes, all true. They're not to blame.
Right.
There is no more blame.
Yeah.
Now what? Now I'm just left with me.
Yeah. It's
Right?
like accountability too. Like I think that's one of my strong like traits. I want to say I always look at what I could do better and how I allowed that to happen too. You know what I mean?
Because that's what we did.
Yeah. Looking in the mirror and saying, okay, you know, this shit already happened. We can't change it, but what could I do? You know what I mean?
So in realizing this, I started to realize that there is a big lie that we're told when we're younger by a mother, father, an authority figure, whether it's a teacher, maybe a principal, and whatever that lie is for you, you're not worthy of love. You're a piece of shit. You build things up to a certain place and then you give it away right before it gets successful. That lie gets logged into our subconscious. Our subconscious has no sense of humor. It doesn't understand sarcasm. If something's said and we believe it with a high level of emotion and intent, it's going to be the reality. So imagine your subconscious conscience is a movie projector.
Right.
And your consciousness is the screen that it projects that movie onto. So whatever you fill into the movie projector is the holograms you're going to see on that screen in
That's
your
just like
life.
in the school when they would put the little sheet over and that's what you see.
That's it.
Yeah.
Right.
And I like to usually with these situations, okay, like let's say the most cliche thing would be, you know, positive thoughts. But then like you're really going into what a positive thought consists of. And you know what I mean? Like how powerful the mind is and the brain and even separating it too. I like how you broke it down because it's
Between
going to
the
get
science and the
right, even just the mind and all that stuff, how there's like obviously the backside to it and how that kind of triggers how we, you know, go about our day to day and stuff like that.
Well, it does. And, you know, so you start getting deeper and deeper and deeper into this. So it goes, you know, for me, and I was raised, like I said, Orthodox Jewish. So I have a very religious background. And then I have a very spiritual idea of what I think I'd like and an exploration of it. And then I have a very scientific mind where I'm like, I need to have kind of facts. Like, what does quantum mechanics say about this? What does, you know, neuroscience say about this? And as you get deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole on these things, one of the things I realized was like, so if God created us all in his image, or there I did it again. If God created us in God's image, and therefore we have the ability to create, we are co-creators. God has given us that ability.
Right.
Okay, so right there. Then in Genesis, it says, and God created Adam, right?
Yeah.
Well, it suddenly occurred to me that I don't understand why everybody thinks it's spelled A-D-A-M, like a name. God created Adam, A-T-O-M, the damn thing that makes up
Adam.
everything in the universe.
Yeah.
Us, this table, that light, that hat, none of it exists. It's all spinning energy. That's spinning so fast it seems dense, but it's not. So God created the atom, and we were given the ability to manipulate the atom. And then from the atom, he created Eve.
Yeah.
So really, if you think about it, women were created first, just to be clear, because God created the atom, and then from Adam, he took a rib. So he took a nucleus, he took a proton, and he created Eve. To me, that just was like, I was like, okay. I was like, so we can manipulate all energy.
And how did you feel at the time, like kind of realizing all of this?
I mean, it almost felt like, it was like an awakening and a lot of freedom.
Yeah, like your mind is a little more, I guess, clear, because now you kind of like filled in those questions, I want to say, that you had maybe of certain stuff,
Well, yeah, and you also start to remake really the neural pathway. So you've pruned the old one. So I started getting out of bed on the other side. I started taking a different route, even to the kitchen. I started brushing with my left hand instead of my right hand. And everyone, all these abusive people that were in my life, they always used to call me Dorfman. Hey, Dorfman. And then I decided I'm now Cliff Dorfman. I'm not Dorfman. No one can call me Dorfman.
It's crazy how people label you, right? Like, as, okay, that was your last name, that's what you're known as my whole life kind of shit.
Yeah.
But
playground rules apply.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, but they do. The playground hierarchy is a big one.
Yeah.
And it's about getting it released and unlodged from your subconscious, because you will go out and your subconscious will again and again give you that same reality.
Yeah, and it goes down to the smallest stuff. Even just, let's say you were a little heavier set when you were younger, and then it's just like you've been called fat your whole life, right? And then it's just like still to an adult, let's say you're super fit now, but still you're still, that fat idea is still in your mind. You know
That's
what
right.
I mean? And I really want to just thank you for going into that, because I know that this episode is gonna really open up a lot of people's eyes.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I always like to see the feedback and people that just kind of comment and say, wow, like this episode really taught me a lot. And, usually on this stuff like YouTube, it's a lot of entertainment stuff, but I want to keep it real. I like to really bring people on and talk about things that I personally like, for them to be aware of it. So, a huge thank you to you for opening up about all that stuff, because, I mean, I'm sure the list goes on and on and on and on.
It really does. But I will say that in kind of readjusting, adapting, pruning my neural pathways, doing this spiritual work, meditation's a part of it. I mean, it's a lot of work, and it's very monastic. It's
self-care.
Yeah. And by the way, just, I get shit about it all the time, but anyone who thinks there's no aliens is just ridiculous. Like,
I'm pretty sure there's aliens.
I'm not pretty sure. I'm positive.
Right,
of it.
Eric? We got the behind the scenes guy agreeing back there.
Listen, 1947, from basically the beginning of time until 1947, all we figured out how to create was like a radio and like a black and white TV.
Yeah.
Right? And then from 1947 until today, we are basically holding God in our hand. Oh, we're omnipotent. Siri, tell me this thing. Tell me this thing. I want to know what the square root of this is. What is any answer I want?
Everything is on the phone right there.
But you know what we didn't do? We manifested all that. We said we wanted to be like God, so we manifested all this technology. It was given to us by aliens for sure. It didn't just come out of nowhere. It's not like everyone's brains got...
Right, but even back then, it's like, how did a lot of this shit even start? Like these structures, and so they were so ahead. If you actually tie down, like they say, history repeats itself. But if you actually really go back into, different cultures and how advanced they were, even you were talking about like the Hermes, right? Like the Egyptian stuff.
Oh.
The Mayans, the Aztecs, all this stuff was just crazy.
Well, but also we were much more in touch. And why I say about the technology is, we have on the outside become godlike, but we haven't ever turned it on the inside. If you go back to Egyptian times, or Greek, you had the school of mystery schools, the school of the mysteries, right? They would have full schools that were only taught to the higher classes. That's where the problem was. They didn't teach it to everybody, but they would only explore the mysteries of the universe. You know how shut off we are from all that now?
Oh, yeah.
deal with nature. We're in cities most of the time. We're going to work. We're in steel cars. I mean, we don't have the connection to the universe.
World, yeah. That's why I think history was always like so interesting to me. I just always like to see why and how, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it dates back. If you just do your research, you'll find out a lot of those things. So that's super cool that you touched on that, because I'm like a geek for that. You know?
Me too. I'm big. And, you know, you saw that UAP off of the Nimitz where, you know, the Pentagon comes out and says, well, that Tic Tac is not of this world. Mm-hmm. I mean, when has the Pentagon ever said anything like that?
Right. There's a lot of shit out there.
They would know if it's China. They would know if it's Russia. You know, it's like, it's not of this world means it's of another world.
Of another world.
Yeah, like,
I mean, I think a lot of this shit too, even to the alien thing, I feel like, you know, it's like, for example, right? Let's say, you know, these people that are in these houses are complaining about like the nature and the wildlife. Like, oh, there's a coyote back here. And I'm like, no, you're in their territory. So I feel like we're in the alien territory, really.
That's funny.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Because it's true.
Everybody's getting mad, but it's like, no, this is where, before there was houses here, this was literally
Can you believe
open.
there's a mountain lion in my backyard? It's like, yeah, the mountain lion can't believe there's a house in his backyard or her backyard.
You're in a mountain.
Yeah.
That's so funny. So to kind of close it up, just kind of let people know what you're doing now. It was cool that you went into, you know, kind of like how your journey started, some of the cool stuff. We highlighted that. So just let them know kind of like what you're currently working on and how you've been able to adapt. And we'll kind of close it off with that.
Well, I ended up being a writer from Performer, so we know that happened.
Yeah,
I'm writing a new movie for a company called Pioneer Pictures, which I'm very excited about. I can't really talk about it, but I'm just thrilled that I'm doing it, and I'm excited about it, and I'm always thrilled that I get paid to play make-believe.
For sure.
And then I got to partner, not partner, I work for him, to be clear, but I got to be a president of this new film studio that is started by Dre London, and we're basically taking it from development to studio to screen, and we're giving a place for artists to own more of their IP, to, you know, where you're not just giving away everything to these major studios. And also we're finding this nice business model where we can make things that are within, you know, this vast wasteland of movies that have gone away. The $5-7 million movie that doesn't really get made that much anymore. It's almost torture to try and get that made. It's either like a $20 million movie or a $200 million movie.
Right, and I think that's why for those people that are on the Netflix and stuff, that's why you see some of these movies that are really good, but you could just tell the production side of it wasn't as good as like a more expensive big time movie. You know what I mean?
But the heart might be there. You know?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what I mean. Like they put a lot of effort into it.
Yep.
That's why there's a lot of those films that, you know, they start trending because they're so good. You know what I mean? Maybe they don't have the biggest name, but they're really good.
But we have a revolution that's going on in consciousness. And I think we have, you know, we've been dealing with systemic racism forever, and now it's at least coming out more and more into the open. So we want to give marginalized voices an opportunity, you know, because from great pain and anger comes great art. Right.
Yeah.
So these universes that exist in the artistic realm, right? There's all these different universes that exist. This is how I see it, right? And in each universe, there's different types of artists that are creating ideas in their brains that they're trying to put out into the universe. So if we can give voices to the universes that are marginalized, and we could find these new auteurs that are really, you know, have something to say. You know, we haven't had a revolution about anything. I mean, the last musical revolution we had was Nirvana.
Yeah.
You think about it. And now we have hip hop, right? So hip hop has paved the way and started its own revolution, right? So from hip hop, you know, basically it took what the beat poets were doing with Kerouac, and we go back that far. Mm-hmm. Then, and was it Greenberg? I'm blanking. But anyway, they've taken it now to the next level. And so how do we take that now to film and television?
Right, and that's where you guys are bridging the gap. So shout out to Dre London Entertainment. Yes. You guys getting together and kind of pretty much bringing both worlds working together, and also most importantly giving somebody an opportunity. I think more opportunity, I would say, because that's kind of like what you guys are doing. You're allowing them to have more control of, like, you know, the talent and things that they're doing, right?
Well, yeah, and listen, that's what Dre does. You know, that I've been astonished by since I got introduced to him through David Arquette and Christina, his wife. And
for sure,
if he sees something in you, he'll go with it. He doesn't care what your credits are. He doesn't care where you are in life.
Oh yeah, that's why I appreciate him for even just putting me on with you, because recently he actually hit me up for something else. He says, "Hey, I'm gonna link you with this person." So random. It's like a Wednesday.
But it's not
Thursday.
random.
No,
it's
I know.
not random. It's
never
never random.
But he hit me up, and I'm like, okay, they're talking good about me in another room. Now I get this opportunity. I don't know. It didn't happen there. It didn't happen the next day, but it's gonna happen.
It doesn't matter. It's just being thought of and spoken of.
Yeah, that you know, we leave that good impression, and then it's just a relationship. You know what I mean? Like the social currency before we end it.
Yes, human currency, man.
That's way more
important than any money you could ever
amount.
create. You know, because if you have human currency, you'll get dollars. Dollars will always follow human currency. But if you have dollars and you don't have human currency, the second you fall, the second you trip, just a little stumble, everyone will pounce on you and they'll rip you apart.
Man, that's so true. And that's why I think, you know, a lot of people, they're the way that they are as a person and their currency, sometimes it's good, but then they're more of a shitty person. So that's why, like, then they get stuck and they're like, why? You know what I mean? When it's somebody that has good intentions, good heart, nice to people, and your currency's good, I mean, I feel like the dollar amount is always going to follow you. Like
it really will. And you'll never be without a meal.
For sure.
So yeah, I'll leave you with this. Remember that the only thing we really need is oxygen, water. Like everything else is a want.
Yeah.
So figure out your wants, figure them out carefully, and treat people kind. Tell everyone that's in your life every day that you love them. Give them a hug. And then you'll never, ever, ever be without that.
Yeah.
Like, you will always be getting that back. Because, you know, Bob Saget, rest his soul, is one of my very close friends. I miss him dearly. You never left a conversation without Bob telling you, I love you. I love you. And he would hug you. And he'd be like, Cliff, I love you. You know, like, why are you upset? Why are you upset? Come here. I love you. And so when he passed, and it makes me very sad.
Yeah, R.I.P.
Yeah, R.I.P. Rest in power, man. What an amazing guy. But it's one of these things, you didn't walk away going, oh, man, I wish I told Bob.
Yeah.
I wish, because he had so much human currency. His funeral and his memorial were like the outpouring of love from that. Just, you didn't even realize how many people
he touched. Yep.
Yeah. So I'm saying, if you have that, there's nothing else you can't have.
For sure.
That's all.
And that's the Needed podcast for you guys. Cliff Dorfman, if you guys don't know, now you know. You have to give them so here I have the Wall of Fame. Yep. So here you just give them your autograph and a little something that you live by.
I like that. In front of my glasses.
I kind of just invented that last time.
Yeah,
but it makes sense. It's like, you know what?
I think it's great.
Your signature, and then eventually I'm going to frame that. And we'll talk about that after.
The mind is all, the all is mind.
Facts. All right, guys. So we will catch you guys next time. If you guys stuck around for this long episode, I appreciate you guys. You guys learned so much. If you guys are on the road listening to us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, I know you guys are gonna want a part 2 to this. Like we could do a series out of this. Really,
I've told you I'm always here for you. Right? I told you I'm always here for you. Whatever you want to do, we're gonna do.
For sure, man. Thank you so much again, and shout out to you and everything you're doing. Best of luck. Keep killing it.
And with the podcast, I love it.
For
Just
sure.
keep doing what you're doing.
We're just getting started.
I know.
Thank you. See you guys next time. Peace.
Peace.